I played Candy Crush and watched fantasy hockey on my DraftKings app.
Is he?
I don't think he's Canadian.
Wait, is it?
Hey everyone, welcome to Reading the Green and our golf DFS preview show. It's Tuesday, January 11th. I'm Mike, joined with Kyle and Jordan as always. And guys, I feel like we went from 0 to 60 with the content this last week. You know, we got a tournament to recap with the Sentry. We got another tournament to preview with the Sony Open. A ton going on in sports. I feel like 3 weeks ago we were just like
talking about bad beers. That's all we had.
Right.
Drinking blueberry lagers.
Right. Yeah. So now, I mean, this is it. Now that we're getting rolling, we're going to do this for the next 9 months and have a ton of fun. So, for anyone that's just joining us, we're going to preview the Sony Open for golf DFS lineups. We do things a little bit differently. We try to build a bias-free model based on the collective advice in the fantasy world. So meant to be a complement to whatever data you're using to prepare for fantasy golf. We're a great resource to remove some of that bias in your prep. You can find us on YouTube, on our Reading the Green channel, any of the major podcast platforms, on Twitter at RTG Podcast DFS. Please subscribe, like us, leave us some feedback. We're not going to take this too seriously, but we want to engage with our listeners. So, Kyle, I know you were at your in-laws this past weekend, and I had a similar experience around the holidays trying to explain what we're doing.
Yeah, it came up actually at the breakfast table, and you know, the in-laws and my wife's grandparents don't necessarily follow golf to start with.
So probably not fantasy golf.
No, and I don't even know if Grandpa Vic knew what DraftKings was. So try to explain a little bit. That kind of led to some interesting conversation and funny faces. But I think we picked up some new followers in Iowa. So thanks for tuning in, Beth.
That's what it's all about, is just getting some attention. I was trying to, I was explaining to my father-in-law, who is a diehard golfer. He's played some fantasy golf. And so, it definitely piqued his interest, and I showed him a spreadsheet, and I think his next comment was, well, maybe you should call up the local radio station and see if there's anything you guys can get involved with. And I'm like, well, just pump the brakes there. We're just having some fun. We want to be able to share what we think is some pretty good insights with everyone. And that's why we're here, but maybe someday.
Radio station.
So anyways, we have a few things to talk about before we get to the Sentry Tournament of Champions recap. So first of all, last night was the college football playoff. I don't know who really cared outside of Alabama and Georgia fans. Like I said, I didn't even see it show up on ESPN.com until like 2 p.m.
I know there was a lot of good players, highly ranked prospects for going to the NFL. That for that part of it, some people are probably pretty engaged. But SEC versus SEC, another rematch. Teams that we've seen play again. I don't miss many high-profile football games, and I did not watch most of last night. I did record it and allowed the son to watch the fourth quarter today after school. So I know what happened, but I was probably haven't been that unengaged in a final in a long time.
Man. Jordan, you were texting about it. You must have been watching it.
It was on. I didn't care who won. Well, actually, I always root against Alabama, so I was hoping Georgia would finally pull it off. But yeah, it was entertaining. The last quarter, the first 3 quarters, I think I played Candy Crush and watched fantasy hockey on my DraftKings, see how we were doing. But yeah,
it's a week after, or this year, 10 days after, New Year's Eve is a big, all the rigmarole with the semifinal games. Then you just forget about college football.
Yeah. So. And the other thing is too, and I saw this going around Twitter quite a bit last night, but if that game, and granted it was in Indianapolis, but you had a 9-6 game at halftime. Mm-hmm. If that was 2 Big Ten teams, everyone would have been complaining. But now it's 2 SEC teams. Oh, great defense, great athletes, and yeah.
And the only reason Alabama actually lost is their two best wide receivers. One got hurt a month ago, and one got hurt in the first quarter.
Yeah, that certainly impacted the game. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So other things that were ramping up this week, we had Swag Golf with a few announcements, and then it seemed like a few sort of secret raffles. So Jordan, what's going on there?
It's first drop of the new year. They're going big for the Sony Open. Every year they do a Hawaii themed release. They got some pretty sweet looking stuff coming out.
Yeah, I like that driver head cover.
Yes,
that's really cool.
The hibiscus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be the moneymaker. That's my goal is to buy both of them and sell the driver immediately to pay for the other one so that I can keep. There's the pina colada. It's very creative. They are, they're stepping up their creative game after getting a lot of crap last year for doing the same things over and over again. But yeah, we got into cover of the month, and anyone out there that's listening can go get in by Friday. Paige Sporanic, Paige Renee on Facebook or Instagram, and probably her OnlyFans now. But yeah, so she's giving away 2 cover of the month memberships. All you gotta do is retweet. You'll see all 3 of us have done it, hoping to get in. There'll be a few thousand entries, but it's a $2,000 freebie if you win it.
So of the covers coming out this week, you think the hibiscus driver one will be a higher demand than the pina colada putter cover?
Yeah, just because they always make less of the drivers. I mean, I think if you buy it and flip it the same day, you'll double your money, or maybe a little more. I think they're going to make so many of the pina colada ones that it's not going to be worth the flip, right? You might make $30, $50, but not, it's not going to be one that's going for hundreds.
I was thinking today, since we talk about swag so much, when do we do a cover with our logo on it and send that over?
Ooh, I like it. I've got my contact there that designs covers for them.
Yeah.
So
let that cook.
Yeah, they do custom covers for all sorts of country clubs around the country. Okay. So maybe yours, you should get that for your club, Mike.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to that. All right. Well, we're gonna keep rolling. We'll cover the Sentry Tournament of Champions, and then we'll get to our break before the Sony Open. But okay, so Kapalua, I thought that was I checked out a little bit of the golf tournament on Saturday evening and Sunday evening, and I thought it was just really fun to watch all the fireworks there. Like, you get a super easy course with a ton of really good players, and they all stepped up, except for Jason Kokrak. He did not. Here's a couple of comments. First of all, this has nothing to do with golf. I didn't think that Cam Smith's mullet could get any mulletier. Like, it got greasier, it got long. Like, he's doing some nice work there. That was some good flow.
I can't remember who even said it, but it was at some point this weekend. It was on TV, and somebody who knows nothing about golf was like, "Oh, that guy's got quite the look going on." The mullet and the kind of the flatter bill and the mustache and the full nine.
It's awesome when he gets the center stage, because it's just, you get to see so much of it. But
I didn't recognize him. I didn't recognize. They were talking to maybe, I think, Trevor Immelman, the next President's Cup champion, or they were on Sunday. They were reminiscing about Cam Smith's first President's Cup. He had a normal haircut. I literally did not recognize this. Like,
well, he was like
kid.
19.
Yeah, but now now it's the mullet, right? If he had the mullet, then you'd be like, oh, Cam Smith.
Well, he outdueled Rahm on the weekend, right? Like, they played 36 holes together. They were neck and neck, and he stared down Rahm, who, shot a million under on Saturday and Sunday, and Cam Smith shot 1,000,001. Like, it was pretty cool to watch those guys go after it. It kind of felt like on Sunday that they were gonna have a bit of a pillow fight out of the gate, and then they both turned it on. So that was pretty cool.
Well, it was amazing to me. Cam Smith did that, and granted, the course gave up a lot of birdies and eagles, everyone, but you commented on it, like, because he was even through 3 on Sunday. That was the best he had been through 3. And one day, I believe on Friday, he even started with 2 bogeys.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Well, there were tons of records set. The course record was set by JT on Saturday, and then it was matched twice that weekend. The tournament record, or I should say the PGA Tour tournament record, was set 3 times. I think in like 10 minutes, because I think Matt Jones finished, and then Rahm finished, and then Smith finished, and those guys all set records for being more than 31 under. So it was pretty cool, which meant we had super high scores in fantasy. And if you rostered Smith, Rahm, Cantlay, any of those guys, I think you were going to end up in pretty good shape. So RTG had a good weekend.
Very
right?
good.
We cashed a lot of lineups.
Yeah, I was 100% in my cash classic games, up 8 units on the weekend. I did just miss in a tiers contest. I was the first loser, but as we were kind of looking through performance of the tiers, just, kind of ended up in a bad one where it took a little bit more to win, unfortunately. But overall, great weekend. Can't complain.
Yeah. The 3 players at the top of our model were then mentioned. I think Rick Gaiman had his optimal lineup that he shared later on, and that, we had 3 of those 6 were at the top of our model. So clearly, like, where we were starting was going to set us up for success. So that was great. So Cam Smith, obviously the winner. He had the most points naturally, and classic DK scoring. He had almost half of the mentions in our model from our contributors, and he had a very high mention power index of 74 out of 100. So he was a very good pick, ends up winning. So I think we ended up rostering him in quite a few lineups.
Yep.
And then our best contributor of the week, who will kind of share this award this week because of the no cut event with a ton of birdies. The Alex Hunter's DraftKings values article had really good plays this week to kind of fill out your lineups. Like Kevin Kisner still finished like middle of the pack, but he had a really good weekend. And so I think that probably would have buoyed. I didn't have any shares of him, but that buoyed the score for this contributor. The Athletic was really good too. I think he had 3 of the top 4 finishers in DK scoring mentioned. And so again, a really good article to be following for this tournament.
Other cool Cam Smith note, and granted, we live in a state you can't bet on sports. You can play DraftKings because it's not betting. It's a game of skill, right? But we can't bet here, but I do have a buddy that lives in a state that you can bet. And he asked on Wednesday who would be a betting play if he was going to take someone. I told him to take Cam Smith at 2,200. I'm going to retire on top. That's the last pick I'm going to give.
So did your buddy, is he retiring from his job with his winnings then?
No, I think in the betting world, it would be classified as a sprinkle.
But wait,
right.
So you sent us a text Sunday afternoon. Should he hedge and put money on Rahm? We said no. Did he do it?
He did it.
He
hedged. There was one point in time where I think Rahm slipped, I want to say to almost like a plus 160 scenario. So he grabbed him at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The worst contributor of the week, I feel bad for Jason Sobel in our model right now. He's one of my favorite contributors. There were times last season where it was a hard tail on Jason Sobel's DFS picks for weeks at a time. And he's gotten a run of bad luck in the last, I'll say 2 out of the last 3 events. Oosthuizen withdrew from the RSM Classic after like 2 holes, who was his safe pick. And then he has Cam Champ withdraw as his DFS underdog. So his other pick, Xander Schauffele, was fine, but Sobel ends up with only Xander as his mention this week, and kind of bottoms out.
Yeah, in our model, you only have one person. They better do pretty well.
Yeah. So that's all right. Like I said, I'm looking for Sobel to pick things back up here, but for now, we'll kind of be looking elsewhere for the best advice. I wrote down one landmine for the week. That was Jason Kokrak. He was pretty highly ranked in our model. I talked him up last week. He won 3 times last year. he didn't break 70 on this golf course. And that's not going to get it done when the winner's 34 under.
Yeah. Well, it's like Cam Smith didn't break 65, but that's because every one round was below that.
Going the other way.
So, yeah, that was it.
But, I'll say I had Kokrak and I still won mine. He still got 78 points.
Right. No, I know.
He still got a bunch of points. He just, was the worst golfer there.
He was in my core, would have helped me in my 20 max entry, but yeah. So we move on. I think if we take a look really quick before we get to the Sony Open, we're still looking at Fantasy Pros as one of our best contributors. We had a couple of newcomers contributors that did really well last week, and so we'll start reporting out on them in the next handful of events. But I'm encouraged, guys, by the first week. I know it's a no cut event with a ton of firepower, but I'm excited to roll this into a full field event at YLI.
And on the new contributors note, to listeners out there, if there is someone you think we should be looking at to include in our model, it's pretty substantial database of contributors, but we want to build it out to make sure we're capturing all the good advice out there. So if there's someone you think we should take a look at, reach out to us, hit us up on Twitter, leave a comment on our YouTube page, and we'll get them included.
Cool. All right. Well, I'll take a quick break, and we'll come back and talk about the Sony Open and close things up. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. A couple things to jump into before we get to the Sony Open. First of all, as always, like to make sure we know what we're drinking tonight. It's dry January for some of us. Kyle, you're holding strong.
Yeah, still going almost halfway there.
Yeah, what do you got tonight?
I still have the Untitled Art NA Italian Pilsner from last week. Funny enough, when you buy a 6-pack of NA beer, it doesn't go very fast. So this is number 2. One last week, now this week. So.
And Jordan, you were talking up your dry January game last week.
Yep. It lasted until Friday. Then I had one beer. Now I like Kyle said it's arid January. I'm not going to have more than one beer in a night, and this is only my second beer. So 11 days, 2 beers. I didn't want to leave you drinking by yourself, Mike.
Well, this is Tuesday nights are a special night because I get to dig into a few things. I finished off a Junkyard IPA. Junkyard's based in Moorhead, Minnesota. I love that brewery. And then a local spot just pretty close to my house, Wooden Ship in Minneapolis. So that's all right. This one's a little bit lower ABV, so trying to do the responsible thing.
I'll be back
nice
on the horse January 25th for the key preview for that's
management.
Oh yes, yeah. We're gonna have a very special show for the farmers. So
nice.
Okay.
I did forget to say I'm drinking Toppling Goliath out of Iowa, which is the best thing that's ever come out of Iowa. Sorry, Kyle, you're a close second. Well, you're third. Your wife's second.
That's fair. You can put Toppling Goliath in her out of me. No argument there.
Okay. Okay. So before we get to Sony, one more thing. We're gonna run a DFS contest for our listeners, and we're gonna start it as soon as we can. Get some folks to join. So if you're interested in playing a weekly DFS event with us on DraftKings, please subscribe on our YouTube channel and leave us a comment that you'd like to join. We will send you information after that, but those 2 steps, subscribe, leave a comment, and we will send an invite to join our DraftKings League and play DFS with us weekly for each golf tournament. All right. Now what everybody came for, the Sony Open. PGA Tour does a little puddle jump over to Oahu in Honolulu. We get YLI. Tournament's been here for 50, 60 years, something like that. So one of the long-standing events on the PGA Tour, the first full field event of the PGA Tour season. So we do get the top 65 and ties making the cut. 24 players, I think, from Kapalua are going to be playing at YLI. I'm not sure if that includes Bryson or not, but Bryson did withdraw. And I think the interesting stat was something like 7 of the last 8 and 8 of the last 10 champions at Wiley have played at Kapalua.
And not necessarily played well.
No,
right?
just like played.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I think you almost, certainly if you're picking an outright this week, you almost have to take somebody from the field last week. But I also want to make sure for DFS that my core has 3-4 players that played last week, just to make sure my bases are covered.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that is, adjusting to the time zone over in Hawaii, and then just, I know these guys are playing still, but getting back in the tournament mode. Some guys haven't played in 3 months.
Yeah, a little different golf course too. So we're going from a par 73 to a par 70, quite a bit shorter. Still on Bermuda greens, but the premiums supposedly is much more on putting. Like driving distance is not going to play as much of a factor here. So, but interesting that like the correlation is really there between the two tournaments. So, all right. So Kyle, why don't you hit us with how our model is shaping up, some of the plays at the top, and then we'll kind of go around the room here and see what we're feeling.
Yeah, so far we have 85% of our contributors in. So everyone's on top of it this week. Everyone's excited after last week, just like we are. Leading the way so far is Corey Connors with 73% mention share. And then a couple in the 60s is Russell Henley and Webb Simpson. And then just over 50% is Joel Dahman at this point. And then Cam, the stash man, is fifth as well with 40% mention.
So a couple of new faces and then a couple of guys that played last week.
Yeah, some of the names there that are going to be in my core 3 plays. I think Corey Connors is someone you got to start with. He did not play last week, but it was a good course fit for him. As I mentioned, 73% mention share and also an upper tier mention power. So the model really likes him. Webb Simpson is someone I'm going to have a lot of shares of as well. It's a good course fit. Reading through a lot of our contributors' articles and their picks this week, it's something that's really highlighted some of his course history here. So that's certainly someone I'm going to be playing often as well.
All right. That's good. Jordan, where are you starting your lineups this week?
Good question. There's a lot of good value at the top there. Connors, everyone's going to be in on Connors in this group this week. We follow what we preach. So we're all going to be in on Connors. To go a little further south, there's an interesting anecdote. I think, Kyle, you sent it to me about Charles Howell III, how he's never missed a cut here in 20 appearances or something.
Correct. He was 21st.
So, sometimes people just like a course. He's probably not going to win, but you know what? If I can get him at that price to go through get 4 rounds of him, I'll be okay with that. The other one that I'm going in on, just because I didn't know who he was and I liked his brother, is Mark Hubbard, whose brother, I don't know if you guys know this, is Chubba Hubbard, the running back for the Carolina Panthers. Don't look that up because it won't prove to be true. But he's my cheap play of the week. The model likes him. I like his brother's name, Chubba, so I'm going with him.
And that's your Jordan Dietrich incorrect fact of the week.
I'm a little less scientific than my 2 Patriots here, but
Jordan's also the guy that fills out his NCAA basketball bracket based on the mascot that he likes the best.
Yeah, why would you not? And I think I beat you guys every year.
So, Jordan, you mentioned Charles Howell III and his history at this course. This was Jason Sobel tweeted this out today, but I thought it was cool, so I wanted to mention it as well in case you missed it. He is the all-time money leader at this event, and of all the current PGA events, he's the only one that hasn't won the event and is yet the current money leader at the event. So thought that was a little bit unique. Has several seconds, several thirds, a lot of top 15s, and just a lot of make cuts.
Yeah, sometimes he's Canadian, so he loves Hawaii.
Is he?
I don't think he's Canadian.
Wait, I'm pretty sure Charles.
Corey Connors Canadian. All right.
More things that George.
No, American golfer. My bad. Who's the Canadian golfer?
Incorrect fact number 2 of the week.
Yeah, but okay. So what I was gonna say was sometimes a course just really fits your eye. Like I mean, any of us have that where you just know you show up and you're like, I know exactly where to miss it. I know exactly where, what club I want to hit off the tee. And it's just, it's, I don't know, that's pretty cool. 20 years of making a cut in an event, and probably a good spot to do it. Family stays a little bit longer in Hawaii and, although maybe if you're making the trip out to Hawaii, you want to be missing cuts there so you don't have to work on the weekend.
Fair point.
I don't know. All right. So
also, Mike Weir. I got Mike Weir, right? He's Canadian. They kind of look alike. One's lefty. Yep. Two bad
similar
facts.
stature. Mike Weir is about 10 years older, but yes, that's we understand that.
Okay.
Okay. So my 3 plays for this week. I also like Corey Connors. Hard to not take that value at the top of our model. I'm going to jump down then to Joel Dahmen and then Taylor Gooch. And Dahmen and Gooch both played last week, so that's where I'm saying I want to make sure I get enough Kapalua in my Waialae lineup. And so both of those guys ranking in the top handful of players on our lineup or on our model, and will certainly be in my lineups this week.
Then my third is Brendan Steele. And this one is a little bit of a departure from the mention share for us. He's only coming in at 20% mention share so far, but a very high mention power. So the articles that are on him have been performing really well. And so I'm gonna ride that wave.
Yeah, unlike Russell Henley, who has a ton of love this week, but ranking at the bottom of basically the collective performance of the people that are talking about him. So we're going to have to figure out how much we're going to roster Henley, because clearly people like him this week, but not the right people.
Yeah, and that at 8,500, that's a pretty high dollar value to risk someone like a Russell Henley on.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I can guarantee that I will be playing him on Saturday in a showdown if I don't roster him this week, because he's my moneymaker in round 3s. When he gets freed up because he's a little bit further down the leaderboard on a Saturday and it's moving Saturday, he's good for a 63.
You just do not want him on Sunday.
Right, yeah. Tiers, Kyle, what are we looking at there?
I wanted to highlight tier 3 this week. There's a lot of guys in there with about the same mention share, so it's going to be a little bit more of a difficult decision. You have Taylor Gooch, Billy Horschel, Kevin Ott, Kevin Kisner, Jason Kokrak. And we actually talked about Kokrak earlier in his very poor showing, dead last week. But again, he did play, and that was a little bit more of a departure from his form relative to how he had been playing. So if you're going by our models, mention power index, it does like some of the other players there as well, but I think I'm leaning Kokrak at this time to rebound and have a good weekend.
That would be really consistent with, I think the stats were about Na and Kuchar, they won 2 and 3 years ago at the Sony, but had finished like 20 plus at Kapalua the week before. So Kokrak would definitely fit that trend. I think that's a great play. All right. Anything else on recommendations for the Sony? Otherwise, we got a few other topics to round out the night here.
I'm only other one is tiers. It's my chance to play Cameron Smith. He's hot. He's going to be in it. I don't want to pay up for him in any other format. But tiers, I will take him all day.
I think that's a good point. And, Mike, you and I went down this rabbit hole in discussion last year about how, in golf, somebody wins and he almost gets faded more often than not the next week. Where any other sport, people quote, right, the hot hand. So I find myself in that position this week. I'll probably play him in tiers, but at that price point, he's going to be hard to get into a cash lineup. Maybe a little bit more exposure in GP.
And actually, that's been the take about Cameron Smith this week. He's not getting less love, and he's getting less love in our model, but it's not because people think he's going to play worse. I think it's because of the price he's commanding this week, which is $1,000. No, it's $3,000 more. He was in the 8K range last week, so it's $3,000 more than a week ago. And so suddenly you're paying top dollar for him. Even if he wins, you got to take a lot of 6 and 7K players in your lineup. So I think you're right. Tiers is probably a really good spot to roster him if you want to take him this week.
Yeah, my last thought in Hawaii is, man, it's nice to have golf at 6-7 at night.
Thank you for bringing that up, because it is nice to have golf at 6 or 7 at night. But how hard is it to wait until like 2 o'clock for it to start?
Wow, that's good. Well, and I guess it goes both ways, right? Because there's nothing better than waking up on Saturday morning. If it's an East Coast early tea time tournament, you're having your coffee, tea, whatever it may be, and just watching golf until any other sporting event starts during the day. But just with everything going on, I did enjoy it at night last week as well.
Yes, this is where weekends it's better, weekdays it's worse. I would much rather I'm watching the Masters at 7:30 a.m. on Thursday morning versus here it doesn't even start until 2. And the coverage is limited compared to the big tournaments.
Okay, one other point I had on Sony as we kind of transition out of the prep. If you are playing showdowns this week, I did read that if you're looking for an edge, which in showdowns you kind of have to look for an edge a little bit because it's so tough to pick round by round. But guys starting on the first hole will have a little bit better advantage to get some rhythm because the first couple of holes play so tough that what you don't want to do is be coming off of 16, 17, 18. Maybe you're stringing a couple of birdies together and then go and play the hardest 3 holes on the golf course. So maybe for a showdown, if you do have the split tee times, especially on the Friday showdown, trying to maybe grab an extra guy or two that's starting on the front 9 might help with some rhythm throughout the round.
Interesting.
But we'll see.
See, that seems counterintuitive. You'd rather have you're going to start with 3 bad holes, potentially be 1, 2 over, and then figure it out.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a way that the scoring works. Like your chances of stringing together 3 birdies in a row or something like that is more likely around, from around the turn 8 through 12 versus 16 through 2. Again, this is the professional gamblers trying to look for edges when you really need an edge.
Yeah, well, these guys are also professional golfers, so I go out there, I hit double, triple, I get 3 beers, and then I'm done for the rest of the 15 holes. Right? These guys, they don't have that benefit.
It's a little.
When did your golf game turn into mine?
I was projecting, Kyle. I was projecting.
Okay. All right. Let's. I wanted to finish out the night with a comment, not about golf. This is about football. We obviously have a lot of chatter before, during, and after the Chargers-Raiders Sunday night game, which gave us almost the exact game that everybody wanted, which was an incredible shootout that should have ended in a tie. And the only thing I'll say is, as Minnesota, I would say Minnesota Vikings fans, but people here who follow the Vikings, Daniel Carlson just had to be Daniel Carlson like he was with the Vikings and miss a 49-yard field goal.
I don't know how that ended in a tie. Like outside, he made the kick and all that, but outside of that, just they get into overtime.
Yeah,
both teams, their motivation should be to tie, and the whole timeout gate. I don't know. That was just a crazy game. It was fun to be a part of, and it's times like that. It's really fun to have Twitter and follow along.
Yeah, well, that's good because I thought the rest of the games all day were boring. Like I wasn't interested in football on week 8. Like it was the first year there's been week 18, week 19. Yep. What is it, week 18? Right. And I was like, okay, let's just get to the playoffs. Most of these games don't matter.
It is kind of incredible that the things that had to fall into place for that game to get to that point.
Yeah. To be the Sunday night, right? The only game on.
Jacksonville beating Indianapolis, and that wasn't close. And then the Steelers winning in overtime against Baltimore. Both of those had to happen, and then just to get all the way to that, it was
Well,
to their credit, I would have wanted to make the kick also because you want to play the Bengals, not the Chiefs. right? Like that's what it came down to. If it would have been the other way around, I think the coach walks over to the kicker and says, miss this and shut your mouth. Don't ever say anything about it. Because you don't want then the Bengals to know, right? Like you missed it so you can play the Bengals, then they're going to be all fired up, right?
Sure.
But you would much rather play the Bengals than the Chiefs.
Yeah. Well, so what was it? 46 yards? I think.
Something like that, yeah.
Like if it's any further, do they – I mean, pro, that's a fairly safe kick. But you're getting over 50 and stuff. Like – the chances, if this might be small, but it gets blocked and returned or something like that.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm just saying this guy was run out of Minnesota for missing how many kicks in the first 6 games of the season, and he misses 3 all season, perfect at home. Like it was, Vikings fans out there should be really proud of their guy Daniel Carlson.
Well, he was like a third round pick,
Something like that.
Like crazy high, and he lasted 6 games.
Yeah.
Couldn't hit.
Anyways, a fun Sunday night viewing for sports fans out there. Anyways, I think that's probably it for this evening. Like I said, if you want to continue to hear more from us, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Reading the Green. Follow us on any of your favorite podcast platforms. Check us out on Twitter at RTG Podcast. We will be back in a week with the recap of the Sony Open and looking ahead to the American Express. Certainly check out Twitter in the next couple of days here to make sure you get the latest on how our model is shaping up for this weekend. And we wish everybody luck. See ya.